my name is Aksik, aka Annika. Welcome to my channel. And here we talk mostly about adult coloring and art and history, mythology, folklore, fantasy, whatever pops into my head. And today's video is one of the kind of a journal style of videos, which I call a vlog, but I'm not really sure it's a correct name for it. It's essentially a collection of clips and bits I have filmed over the last couple of weeks. And plus I usually have a little kind of a update and chat in this video also here in the beginning and possibly some at the end. So there's, hopefully some things that you might find interesting. And at first, I have to make you a confession. I'm actually in a slump, coloring slump. I haven't been really able to finish anything or do really anything substantial the whole month of July so far. I don't know, that the head is just somehow clogged and I'm feeling a bit uninspired at the moment. It'll pass, but I need to give myself some space and some time. I'm not going to not push myself. If I have very few pages this month, so be it. But if I try to push myself, I'm just going to get deeper into the slump. I know that much myself. So I need to give myself a bit of a distance and break. I'm still doing stuff. I'm still kind of coloring, but I just mostly feel like, doing very little or some tiny detail here or there, or just put some color down, randomly onto the pages, doing, stuff like this, just adding color here and there, but not really, finishing anything. And hopefully I'm gonna get to things, and I will. It's just, possibly this end of month is not gonna give you many finished pages from me. And also there's another heat wave hitting us here in Ireland. So if you hear this kind of whirring sound, or kind of the sound is a bit interrupted or weird, that is because my fan is going next to me, and so can't really help that. Okay, so I wanted to actually show you something before I go and start kind of chatting about bits and pieces, because I try not to buy too much, but I did see, I ordered a couple of necessities from TEMU, and then I picked up some things that weren't that necessary. But I found these on TEMU, and they are essentially Ganzai Tambi watercolors, and there's 4 sets of them. They come in this really nice, it's actually fully wooden box, which I so appreciate in this plastic era. And the lid slides off like that. The lid is plastic and has this wooden lip. And they are like sorted into seasons. So each set has 12 colors, and they're kind of a seasonal colors. And I ordered 2, just 2. They're not very expensive. I think they were under 10 euros for these sets. But prices change on TEMU as well, so whatever price I gave you now, there might be a little variation. It really, I just wanted to try them out, how they are, and I do like them. I really do like them. This is the set called Midsummer Garden. So it has this beautiful, some really soft, almost kind of like off-whites. One has kind of slightly pink undertone, which is totally invisible on the camera, but in real life you can kind of see it. And one has kind of very soft green tinge. And there's also kind of really kind of strong brights, like almost like these are almost primaries here, and this could also, you know, almost go into the kind of primary range. So I guess you can do some mixing with these sets. Usually GuangNa Tambi colors are not very good for mixing. That is, you know, why it's nice to have kind of big palette of them, because they're not really, you know, designed much for mixing, but you can do some. And they seem to be pretty all right. Like some of the GuangNa Tambis, even if you put down quite little, they kind of dry with their sheen. But these ones don't seem to have, at least, you know, from the ones I put down, I never put them down like really like globby. But, you know, even the ones that I put down fairly concentrated don't have that sheen. So the pencil should go on top of them pretty all right. And there's another set which is Late Autumn Garden. I love these colors. Just look at them. They are stunning. So yeah, there's obviously 2 seasons missing, and guess who ordered them? Because yeah, I probably will talk, you know, in more detail about them, you know, if I do eventually a whole video. But I just thought I'll show you because they are so nice. I'll probably put a link in the description as well. I usually do. So yeah, they're lovely. These colors, especially the autumn colors, this palette is just stunning. Just look at it. I just want to do so many pages with these colors. It's stunning, you know. And I tried to, of course, translate the colors, which is always hilarious, because some of them just don't translate, you know. Google just goes, and this is Quinquan, or Tian Shuibi, or Mei Shan, or Lu Hui. Oh, I'm probably doing awful pronunciation here, but Lo Qing, I don't know, that's probably bad. It's really bad. You know, this is my pretend Chinese pronunciation. I don't have a clue, really. I have tried occasionally to kind of understand how it works, you know, and what letters you should be pronouncing how, but yeah, I haven't really been very successful in that. Oh, and then I got this, I'm not going to show you, but I thought I will show that. They are really cheap. I had an old sponge which didn't have a box, and that was kind of driving me nuts. And it was kind of getting really nasty as well. So I got myself a new, it's for watercoloring. Essentially, it's for tapping the excess paint off your brush when you're watercoloring. And, you know, you keep it kind of moist here. And occasionally you kind of into the tap, you know, squeeze it out and kind of wash it out. And then, you know, make sure that it's moist there and then put it here, because, you know, it absorbs better and, you know, pulls the paint into it better when it's moist. And because you have this little box, it stays, you know, it's not going to wet your desk, which happened with the previous one, which annoyed me. And it's also going to stay wet a bit longer. And I think it was just something, you know, under €2, you know, it was really cheap. So, and another thing that I wanted to mention, because people were interested before, the shop was closed for a while. It's Etsy shop called the Alchemist EU, and she is an Irish kind of small business, meaning her. That's it. I think she lives near Dublin somewhere, but I don't really know her. There's no association or, you know, no affiliation or anything like that. You know, please don't think that I'm trying to advertise anything. No, I'm not. But she sells handmade sparkly watercolors, you know, metallic stuff. And her stuff is beautiful. I think it's, you know, I don't now have a huge collection, and some of the really expensive ones, and obviously very nice ones also, are just out of my range. But yeah, my dog just went nuts for no reason. Where was I? Anyway, I just, you know, can't afford some of the really, you know, I have admired some people's collections, and yes, they're beautiful, but they're just too expensive for me. But these ones, they are absolutely stunning. They're really nice quality, lovely variety. I don't know if you can see how well they sparkle. And her prices I actually find, like, they're not cheap. No, none of them are going to be cheap, but they are sensible. You know, they're like, okay, I can understand, you know, and I can accept it. Yes, you know, this is okay price for the product she's offering. Okay, I've put, of course, that on top of wet paint. So some paint is stuck to it. The heat doesn't help, of course, the humid heat, you know, things are just kind of, you know, more sticky constantly a bit more sticky than they usually would be. But I don't know if you can see, but they're just stunning. Yeah, so that shop is open again, and it was closed for a while because she took a little break. But now she's back. I just discovered it about a week ago or so, and yeah, she's back selling her stuff again. So hopefully she's gonna do well. And yes, you know, if you know you're looking for something like that, you know, check her out. I don't know how her shipping is going to be abroad. I know that in Ireland her shipping is free, so you know, worth checking out if you're looking something like that. You know, I'm not trying to advertise or push, you know, paints down your throat. It's like, if you're looking something, you know, really nice with kind of okay price, then this is one of the options. Anyways, what I thought I would do while doing this video is here in Circle of Nature, I like this page, and I thought I'm gonna take that summer palette, Midsummer Garden, this one, and maybe put a bit of a base on it, because it does seem like the pencils will go on top of this paint pretty nicely. So, but, oh, and I forgot to show you, I got this one today in TK Maxx. I went there with my daughter. She needed some, you know, she wanted to look some clothes, and she did get a fair bit of clothes for herself. And I found this one. I thought it was really cute. I'm gonna use it for paint, because of course I am. And so, let's do her face first. Once again, we need to mix something for her face. So what are we going to use? Alrighty, there's already one pan here which has kind of, it's heavily mixed with white, obviously, and has slightly pinkish undertone. So I'm going to keep that for the end, kind of for making it a bit, softening the colors. Okay, so I'm going to grab maybe this one. Okay. And some of this fairly bright, okay, I've probably put too much in it, but it's called Apricot, and it's really kind of vibrant, very warm. It reminds me a bit of Gamboge color. But I might have put a little bit too much in here, but you know, we can always trim things down. Okay, I think that tone is getting closer. And I might put tiny bit, I usually do, I put tiny bit of blue in as well to kind of mute. You can see how it became instantly more muted. And now I might add tiny bit of this, what's it called, lotus root, to make it somewhat more opaque and also a hell of a lot lighter. And I'm dipping my brush now, just to make sure that it's nice and light. Okay, so, okay, I don't have paper here to test. Yeah, it's going to be fine. I might have even gotten it too light. Often I would have several colors, and I would put down, you know, like some shading from the go. At the moment, I can't really be bothered. I'm just going to put down flat layer of color for the face. And this is once again how easy it is to mix skin tones, or skin base at least. If we actually went into more detail on her skin, then we would need to, okay, let's say I wanted to put something darker down here as well at the top, and on the side of the face, and maybe in the neck. So I would just take a little bit of pink, a little bit of that apricot, maybe more pink, maybe a little bit more apricot, and maybe a tiny bit of blue, just to mute it down. And now we have darker color as well here, which I'm going to apply right away to the side of the face and neck as well. And then I'm going to dip the brush in water, and I'm going to soften these edges here, so it wouldn't be harsh edges on her face. And there you are. I might put more into the neck, because eventually the neck is supposed to be pretty dark. So, kind of little basic shading, and the more you add, you can go darker and darker and darker and keep layering like that. But of course, to be honest, at this stage you should wait when it's dry if you wanted to add more layers, and then add another darker layer possibly. Playing with acrylic markers again here. I did the ground and the trees behind these two lovebirds with acrylic markers, a variety of them. I did some of them areas I did that I put flat base down first, and then I put darker color at the bottom here, or bottom areas, and I washed it out kind of carefully upwards with the water brush. And some of the areas I just put a little line, a little area of water, the acrylic marker down, and then just washed it out on the paper, which you can do. This paper is one of those papers that doesn't really like water much, meaning that anything would go through really easily. It kind of water sinks into it. So regular and less juicy acrylic markers are going to be hard to wash out on these surfaces, as I've probably explained before. But you can do it to some extent with the markers that are more juicy and kind of more opaque, like, oops, sorry, making things vibrate here. With the markers that are more juicy and more opaque. The thing then being that in the lighter areas, you could put some pencil on top, but kind of like full concentration areas, like the darkest areas here, because these more opaque markers are also usually more satiny finish, or they get smoother and smoother as they get opaquer. It's very hard to put pencil on top of here, on the darker areas. But since it's distance, I don't really feel a need to put much pencil in there. So I thought I might have a go at the sky in front of camera. Why not? Since I'm sitting here playing, so I'm making sure I have enough water. Okay, I would probably need to top up my water brush as well, and I'm using my trusty, really banged up water brush, which is really great for washing out areas, or especially acrylic paint like this, because it is so kind of banged up. You can see how the tip has become kind of soft and frayed almost. It's actually very good for a washout job like this soft tip. So good things and bad things. Now let's start from the bottom or from the top. So I have two colors here, and those two colors are coming from this set. This is a new set. I blame Connie, Coloring Chemist. Damn you, Connie! Yeah, she did an overview of the new colors of some, Languo stuff, acrylic markers and gel pens. There were a couple of color sets that, yeah, I had to get these. I will probably talk more about them in the future, but there's like dulled out grays and dulled out blues that are really useful and really nice. So they had to come home here. All right, let's start with the lighter one, I think. So this is kind of, okay, I'm going to show you that color. This color is like bluish gray or grayish blue, which is exactly what I need in a rainy sky. If I did it, in a really bright blue or kind of deep blue, it wouldn't look right because it's kind of overcast, rainy day. And the other color is the one I'm using in the darker areas. Is this also kind of muted, but slightly darker, with a grayish bluish tone. I think they're both very nice. This set is full of really nice colors. Okay, so now I have to be rough and ready here. So I'm taking also the tops of the bushes. Instead of going over them with gel pen in the future, I might as well take them out as I am putting the marker, the acrylic marker down. So we'll see how it's going to wash out. I need to get towards the top, put some fresh marker down. It needs to be like juicy for being able to wash it out. So I need to work fast and in small areas. So I'm going to work it upwards. I think I have to get some more water into the brush. It is definitely going to go through, isn't it? No, it's actually going pretty well so far. And okay. And since I'm putting it down already, I might as well lighten or kind of soften some line art with it as well, because it's so opaque. So opaque, it is opaque. So I'm going to pick up some color here, and you might eventually kind of end up adding a little bit in some areas, but it's better off doing that. I'm of course now breaking all the rules because I'm doing it on camera, but usually I would wait until the first layer is fully dry and then go in with the second layer. So just putting some extra there and washing it out to kind of make this area at the bottom even. Okay, so we'll see how this is going to end up. And I'm going to do the full rest of the area, this one as well. I might speed that up, I don't know yet. I wanted to create an effect of a heavy overcast sky with rain clouds hanging fairly low, and I think the color choices I made here are pretty alright. Like this set of muted blues is really nice. About markers though, or about how you're working though, the only things I need to keep kind of repeating and reiterating here is that make sure that you keep shaking the marker if you work with that sort of a direct feed marker, so the ink would be, or paint would be flowing really well. Okay, here we go. And now we should also do the top. And I want to come down with the darker. And the darker the marker is, the easier kind of is to wash it out, because you have more darkness and kind of concentration of the pigment to pull down. At least, in these instances here. So I'm, giving it a good shake to make sure that I have the ink or, whatever, paint flowing real well here. And I'm going to try and wash it down immediately. As you can see, you need to work fast. But if you work fast, you should be fine. Okay. I think I need to turn it. All right.
Couple of words of warning when you are working with a darker marker like this. Firstly, the darker the color, the more likely or the more danger there is that it goes through slightly. So you just kind of either have to be careful with water, which is hard if you're trying to wash it out, or just not care about the page on the other side too much. Also, you can get a little bit of pilling because you can't really do it super gently. You need to be pretty vigorous about washing it out, as you can see there. So if there's a tiny bit of pilling, just ignore it.
This looks actually quite interesting and painterly even after the first layer. I don't know yet if I'm going to add second layer here as well to kind of try to even things out eventually. But I'm going to first let it dry to make sure that it's going to be nice and sealed. And now after that, I can work on top of it without things going through. I'm pretty sure that they did go through because this dark color tends to, if you put a lot of water into it, it does tend to go through. So I had previously kind of checked, if there's a page there I do want to do, and it wasn't really. It's not really badly true. There's a little bit of a ghosting here on his face, which will become lighter once the paper dries. So to be honest, I could still color this page, but just a tiny bit. So you kind of have to be careful how heavy your water use is. But I think it gives kind of interesting kind of painterly effect. And as I said, you can even it out if you want to eventually. It's absolutely doable, but you need to dry it first.
You might be wondering why I am trying to show you 3 brushes here in the beginning. That's because I am using 3 colors, and each color is going to have its own brush. Basically, this is the way I usually don't work with watercolors. I mostly prefer kind of a layering in thin coats, but you also can work heavy, and here I'm showing you how to work, or how I work heavy, because this is by no means probably how it should be done, or but it could be done that way. Basically, if you work like this, most likely you don't need to put any pencils or anything on the top, because it's going to be vibrant and strong to start with. So I'm using 3 colors. Those are Holbein watercolors. I ordered myself a couple of kind of maybe 12, or was it a bit more, kind of test little set for myself. They are very vibrant, fairly opaque, and as many Eastern watercolors, if you put them fairly thickly on the paper, they can leave this slight sheen, or kind of shiny finish. And the colors I'm using are, I think it's Rose Madder, Vermilion Hue, and Camboge Nova. So the darkest one is obviously Rose Madder, the mid-tone is Vermilion Hue, and that really vibrant, red that I'm using at the moment there is Vermilion Hue. And the lightest one is Camboge Nova, which is kind of this really, really strong, beautiful, deep yellow. One of my favorite yellows. It also has kind of several names, but it's a beautiful, beautiful color. And Holbein is not the only set that has them, obviously. And how this works is essentially you are using your watercolors like you would use pencils. Essentially, you wet the pans pretty well and make sure, you know, that there is this almost gouache consistency to them. They're not heavily diluted. They're pretty thick when I'm putting them onto the paper. And you start with the darkest, as you can see now in a moment, once I'm going into that pan there. I'm taking the rose madder, and you put that where the darkest parts and the shadowed parts are going to be. So anywhere the petals are overlapping, or where there's creases or foldovers in the petals, I'm putting it in these places. And since I want this blossom to be like really punchy, vibrant and strong, I am going for this style of coloring. Doing it in delicate layers would give a totally different and also very cool effect. So this is just me telling that no way of using watercolors or doing things is right or wrong. It is all depending on how you feel and what do you want to achieve, how you want to work in this moment of the time. What do you want to do? What do you want it to look like? I wanted this like really heavy, strong, vibrant foreground, like the flower to be absolutely glowingly punchy. And I also didn't really feel like dealing with pencils there, so I'm essentially using 3 brushes. And those 3 brushes are essentially nail brushes. They are little cat tongues from different nail brush sets. I'm using fairly small size, obviously, because this image isn't exactly huge. The book, from what I remember, is Starfall by Maria Trolle. And this little cute bee and the girl, I probably will put a slight watercolor base on them, but I won't do them in the same heavy way as I'm doing the flower. I think the only thing that is going to be done in that heavy style on this page is going to be that blossom, because it's essentially, the centerpiece there, and kind of, I think, should be let to shine. And how I'm working, you can see here, I'm just putting the darkest one down, then going in with the mid-tone and gently rubbing the edge of where I'm putting down the where I put down the previous color, so to soften it, and then taking the color further out, and then taking the lightest color, which is Gamboge Nova, and kind of putting it into the edges and lightest parts, and also using it to gently kind of soften. And you see here now, I am softening the edge there. So you would have kind of smoother blends. And I think it looks fun because the Gamboge Nova is essentially sunlight. It's this really vibrant, super warm and delicious golden color. And to me, it always shows that, there's light. And here I'm just, I've sped it up because, there's no point showing you the whole process kind of super slowly and super detailed. You got the point. You saw what I was doing. And yeah, it's just one way of working. It's not a wrong way. It's not a right way. It's just one of the ways. Is it kind of non-traditional watercolor style? Yes, it is, because watercolor, most people would tell you that the whole point is that it's transparent and the white of the paper should glow through. But why not occasionally use it in kind of heavy application, and in this way, like this is basically using it as a gouache or colored pencils, and why not? You don't have to do it all the time. but you certainly can do it sometimes, and just have fun of it, have fun with it, and experiment. And as you can see, the results are super super vibrant. If you want this really punchy, vibrant effect, why not? You just need to kind of be mindful what colors you choose, and that they go well together, because they do need to essentially blend into each other pretty precisely with this application. Like if they're very different, washes allow you to kind of layer more and play with different tones and different chromas, whereas here you kind of need to create pretty decent blend for it to kind of look good. Then again, I might be wrong. Maybe you take totally different colors and manage to create something really cool with it. I might try it in the future when I feel like it. So yeah, just another way of working with watercolors, kind of precision. It's a bit slower, but then again, once you're finished, you're finished. You're not putting, at least I won't be putting anything on top of it. I'm going to leave it as is, because the whole point is that, all the shadows and all the highlights are already down. Maybe, if I feel like it, I might put some extra highlights here and there, but I don't even at the moment feel like it looking at it. I think it's fine as is.
I am unexpectedly working in the Bridgerton's book again, and it just started by me testing some acrylic markers and pencils on top on the human figures here, and then I just kind of, this page became a testing ground for actually coloring most work, or a lot of work, with acrylic brush markers. And I based and pretty much did all the shading here for the building, and all the windows and everything, the walls, the ground, with acrylic markers. I will probably add a little bit, extra shading here and there, but I think it's pretty much, all right. The door is still unshaded. I need to do the door. I did put some black pencil into the stairs, but yeah, most of the color variations and everything has been put down with acrylic markers. And how I did it, because this paper doesn't like water at all, I couldn't even wash out the acrylic markers on it, because it would have gone through right away. I tested here when one of the roses, kind of wash it out, and you can see the stain you got even from the pink. Some papers just are like that, any water is just no, 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 no. So I put down acrylic marker first as a flat acrylic base, which is, probably usually the lightest tone is the best. And then once it was dry, I just kept adding acrylic marker layers and, kind of areas on top, and quickly washing them out. So all the shading is essentially done with other colors of acrylic markers with the help of water brush. So, I will possibly show this technique at some other time, but I thought I'll show you today. I did not feel like this artist's Jackie Oakley, and she is very talented, and I love her artwork and her line art, but it has very strong black line, and sometimes you fly with it, you're totally fine with it, but sometimes I just kind of want to soften the effect. So what I'm doing here is that I wanted to kind of, all those flowers here, there was a lot of black in them. I can kind of show you, some place that there's a lot of flowers. You can see how strong kind of a black shadows and shading is there. And that's hard to fight with pencils, if you wanted to, or even water-based markers. So what I did here, you can see it in those flowers that I put also down, acrylic marker base, acrylic brush markers. I used those GuangNa double-sided ones. For example, for the roses, I put down, this, I think it's bright pink. it's called in the set. I can show you the set in a second, you know, the lid of the set. And you can see how it's softened, you know, kind of comparatively, how black the line art is here and how much it's softened, but it's still visible, so I can still work on top. And you can also see, you know, those lilacs. Oh, I presume they're lilacs. They're probably not lilacs. It's something else, but you know, something fluffy, flowery, blossomy, hanging here. I also put down like softening line art, kind of acrylic marker on them, and then I worked with water-based markers on top and a bit of Posca pen. And you know, this saves me a lot of grief and a lot of work. This is the set I'm working with at the moment. I find these very, very nice for work like that, kind of basing and then water-based markers on top. And you can do all sorts of things with water-based markers on this acrylic base, because you can either blend them very easily, you can wash them out if you wanted to. So yeah, I think they're fantastic. So here, I've forgotten to do one of the, let me take it closer. One of the, whatever it is called, blossoms, was uncolored. So I'm going to put base onto it as well. And basically I'm going, you know, fairly loosely over it, making sure that I soften the line. And as it dries, it actually becomes a little bit more transparent. So if it looks now that, you know, there's, you know, I can't see anything through that, it actually does become slightly more transparent as it dries. And if you don't wash them out, like with any acrylic marker, if you don't wash them out, they are not as nice with pencil. So you can get some pencil on top, but it's, you know, can be a struggle if they're not washed out. Then water-based marker is your answer. And let me grab the pens that I have here. For example, for these blue ones, I decided to do a variety because that's just more fun. But just make sure that, you know, before you go with water-based markers on top, that it's dry. And then you have basically seal, and now you can work on top of this layer with however many water-based media you want. It won't go through anymore because it has basically a layer of plastic on it, which acrylic, that's what acrylic paint is. Okay, there's 3 water-based markers that I have. 2 of them are Stabilo Pen 68s. They actually have numbers, not that it, you know, helps, but, you know, it's 23231, and this is 21231. It's, yeah, I don't find those numbers very helpful, and plus they're super hard to read. I don't know if you can see, there's like little embossed numbers there, and they are so hard to read. I just, you know, refuse to deal with them. And there's also Faber-Castell Goldfaber Aqua Dual Marker. God, it's a mouthful, isn't it? A Sky Blue Pastel 446. So for these, I essentially use 3 markers. One of them is pretty dark, and you go very loose. You go in and you do kind of scribbles. You choose which side you kind of decide to make kind of the shadowy side, and put more color down there. It just, you know, looks better than when on one side is a bit more dark. So you just go in, scribbles, little commas, little dots, and, you know, quite densely together, where you know, want to have your shadow, and quite loose, and maybe just a couple of dots on the lighter side. And then at the end of it, because it's kind of like a hanging bunch of little tiny blossoms, you bring a couple of dots down as well, so it kind of looks more kind of natural and more interesting. And here again, dot, 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 dot. And when there's something like blocking the light altogether, like those leaves, underneath these, I suggest that you, go dark. Or, if there's another blossom there kind of basically blocking the light, go pretty dark next to it. Or if it's kind of behind two other blossom gathers like this. And just, like this. And this. Oh, sorry. This one I think is supposed to be a blossom as well, because there's something hanging from here. And take some dots down, which would kind of represent tiny little invisible, not invisible, but just too small to have a shape for a naked eye from the distance. But it does make them sit in the environment more naturally. Okay, I'm not going to do any more, that's plenty. And then I'm taking the next one, which is kind of a bit lighter and a bit more reddish violet, which probably would be kind of the lilac color, which they would call lilac, I suspect. I can show you what color it is on its own, because it's hard to see. This is the color. Pretty much any water-based marker set has something similar. And the darker color is this. Also, kind of either kind of a violet blue, kind of violet leaning blue, or just kind of dark violet. And another dot explosion, and also take this color down as well a bit with dots, just to make sure that. And now you put little commas and dots into the dark area and bring a little bit more into the light area, so there's a bit of a variety. Okay, that's done. And then I'm taking this sky blue pastel brush marker from Goldfaber, which is fantastic, but they are not the most cheap ones. And just kind of dab. If you rub it and do circular motion, you're taking all the texture out. Because on this acrylic marker surface, everything blends super well and everything moves super well. So you kind of dab to soften the texture in some areas, but leave it intact in some areas also, because otherwise you're just losing the whole effect of, all from the distance, the texture of tiny little blossoms. I had a microphone trouble there, so I don't really know where I'm cutting back. So essentially I'm repeating here just in case I have to redo everything or start from. So for those pinkish blossoms, I am putting down the darkest, kind of almost burgundy tone first. And once again, little scribbles, little commas, little dots. Don't take dots too far, but still make sure that you have enough of them to represent kind of shadows in these big, huge blossom gathers. Don't know what you call them. There's a lot of tiny little blossoms together. What would you call them? And once again, take little dots down. Just making sure. If you're taking things down like that, or if you're working on top of acrylic markers with the water-based markers, make sure that, because the paper won't absorb anything, because there's essentially a layer of acrylic here on top. Drying time is longer. The marker sits on the surface quite wet for longer. So make sure that you are mindful of not sticking your hand into the wet marker and smear everything. So kind of work. But one of the things is that, you know, it is a really quick and kind of relaxed way of working. So I put tiny bit of, you know, just gradually going a bit lighter. So this one is also Stabilo pen 68, and I'm just, you know, another a slightly lighter pink. I have the maximum set, so I have different, quite a good selection of kind of pinks. But it doesn't have to be Stabilo 68. Like Super Tips or any water-based marker on this, like, would look just as nice. And then I'm actually have neon, and I'm going to add, like, not overdoing it, but I'm going to add a little bit just to kind of give it a bit of a brightness and boost. And I forgot to bring the previous one down a bit more, like in dots. So I should probably do it a bit more here. But I'm just, you know, this neon is just going to lift things a bit. And I'm taking the previous one and bringing some dots down as well. So there will be kind of like variety of colors here as well when I'm extending the blossoms. So they would be looking better in their environment. Okay, and now I'm taking this, which is also Goldfaber Aqua Dual Marker. It's pale pink. It's 114. Those markers are so nice. They're lovely. And the brush tip is just amazing. Absolutely adore them. I'd say they are on par with Tombos, or to my mind, you know, I haven't really tried too many Tombos, so I might be wrong there, but, you know, from my experience, just as good, if not better. They're really nice. Fantastic brush, fantastic inks, really beautiful. Would love if the range was a bit wider and if the price was a bit more friendly. Okay, so now I dabbed onto it. Once again, I didn't kind of do circular movements. I tried to blend it out. I dabbed this onto the texture, and not in all areas, but, you know, I kind of softened the texture in some areas and left it pretty rough in some areas. Okay, so now obviously we need to bring the highlights back in, or, you know, just add the highlights. And my good Posca is dead. Okay, so I'm using my totally not favorite Posca, which is the PC3M, which is slightly, it's the fiber nib one, which is 0.9 to 1.3 millimeters. And yeah, that nib isn't my favorite. It's that nib. And it also, compared to the other, the plastic nib, the 1M one, it tends to spit paint more. Okay, so before you start adding the Posca, one thing to kind of make sure is that they are slightly dry, the markers that you put down, because if you put them down, the Posca down, the moment you finish applying the marker and the marker is still very wet, the Posca is going to be, Posca picks up the underlying marker like this quite a lot. One of the reasons being that it's obviously, you know, still wet as well. You know, Posca is water-based. Those markers are water-based, so essentially you get Posca that is colored by something that lays underneath, which isn't a bad thing because it can actually kind of unify the colors. You know, sometimes you don't want the super bright white. It kind of looks more natural. And with Posca as well, put more of it on the side where there was the light, okay? And then a little bit still bring into the darker area as well, maybe one or two kind of little dots. And then wait until it's dry, and then you can go over and add some other white dots, because now you're essentially adding those dots on top of other Posca. They will be whiter, because as you put it Posca down, the first layers, it will pick up some of the, I don't know if you can see very well, but it will pick up some of the water-based marker colors, which is, to me it's a good thing. But I have, at least here, but I have known and heard people really hating that. I don't think there's too many markers that don't do that. I think there's bleed-proof white if you want to use something like this. That doesn't pick up on the laying colors. That's basically a bottle thing. You need to use basically a brush with it. And then there's also like gouaches and certain acrylic paints, but once again, you pretty much need to use them from like a paint, with a brush. I've also heard that Molotov acrylic markers don't pick up colors or kind of, bleeds like this. But since I haven't personally used them, I can't really comment. I think, was it Amanda who had Molotovs and really kind of was advocating for them, that they're great? I totally believe her, but they are very expensive for me to like. They're not easy to find here, and because they're not easy to find here, and even online, like they're quite dear. So I don't think I'm ever going to be totally, getting a lot of them. I might, get one white, like, to try, but I will never get a lot of colors in them because I can't justify that expense. But I added some dots now, and as I keep waiting until it dries, I add some more dots on top, and because now those dots will be on top of already like paint, they will not pick up or pick up less of the underlying marker color, and you get some kind of a bright white dots as well. And there you go, from the distance, how you would be viewing it, because they're not dominating part of the page. They will look pretty cool, I think. And essentially, this is, the sketchy style. I'm going to do all the flowers and leaves on this page, because they're not really focal point of this page. So there. Another thing you can do on top of acrylic markers, and you can basically do all sorts of wonderful and magical things on top of these. Just, try out different blendings and essentially put the acrylic marker base down, and then do all the shading on top with water-based markers. If you hear a weird whirring sound, that is my fan in the background, and sadly I am not willing to switch it off. It's quite stuffy here, and as I've probably mentioned before, I don't cope very well with heat. So yeah, a vague whirring sound in the background it is. Hopefully you have nerves of steel. Although you probably heard this in my videos before, because in the summer months at least, fan is my only option. We don't have air conditioning. Well, pretty much nobody in Ireland does. It's, so far the climate hasn't really been demanding it, but things are getting weirder and hotter. So maybe in coming years people will start installing them more. I think some people are like, putting them in, because last summers have been pretty rough heat waves wise. So what I'm doing here is I am kind of doing a base for her hair, for which I'm using, those are GuangNa acrylic markers. They're double-sided, each side has different color. It's, you know, some of them are double-sided and they have the same color and different nibs, but in these, I probably mentioned them in this video actually before, possibly. They have different colors, and I like them a lot. But this is my old set, you know. But whatever, some bits that I left from my old set, because I have the new set that I'm using mostly, and they are dying. Like, you know, this is almost empty now. You know, I'm having to kind of press, you know, see if I'm doing to get some color out. I might bring you closer so you see how rough it is to get the color on. And the only reason I'm able actually kind of blend it out here, I might bring it closer so you can maybe see. Okay, so here, let's put it here. You know how empty it is. I have to actually, you know, this should not really be the case with acrylic markers or water-based markers. If they get to that stage, it's very hard really to work with them anymore. But I decided, you know, that I'm probably going to give this one a last use before it has to go into recycling. And if there's kind of a little bit of water down, I can work it into the water. But one of the reasons I wanted to probably film this bit is that even if the marker is on the last legs, like this, although markers probably have only one leg. So, okay, not going on tangent about marker legs. Okay, calm down, Exik. Even the marker is on the last legs like this. You can still, if you're working, like this paper is now mixed media paper. Don't remember which one. It might be Canson. But you know, if you're working on mixed media paper, a paper with a good sizing, you can, you know, even wash out almost dry marker like this. You had to see how I had to really press hard to get some, you know, something out of it. Can you see I'm, you know, doing that almost to get some color or some of the paint out. So yeah, this is the last time, sadly, I can use this one. It's a nice color. It's also kind of a lovely base for, you know, kind of this honey blonde, or it's not going to be kind of blondish or, you know, lightish hair. I thought I might give it even some highlights, possibly with something brighter. Might be like something orangey, possibly. But I don't really know if I'm going to bother doing it. Okay. Yeah, struggling with this marker. But yeah, this is its last hooray, its swan song, and then it's going to go to the land of its ancestors. Markers in the sky. I might see if I have a marker for that bird's nest as well. Let me see. Okay, I have this one still left. Okay, it's not much. You can see how it's running out by, you kind of see the texture. If it leaves texture on the paper like this, that means that, you know, for acrylic marker, that's pretty much almost unusable at this stage. But as I said, on the mixed media paper like this one here, you might still get some life out of it. You know, waste not. Yeah, that probably should not be my motto, because I am not particularly, I'd rather use my stuff and go nuts with it than sit on it without touching it. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it as a base. There's no point putting much shading into it. I think I will, once it's dry, add some shading with possibly black on it, and those branches that are kind of twigs that are sticking out of it, I might do with gel pens possibly, and add some gel pens in there as well, kind of for texture. Yeah, don't know yet. I'll do something. Now the base is down on this image here. Came out pretty alright, I think. Kind of fairly soft base. I tried to keep the background very muted, so the objects here at the foreground would kind of move forward a bit and create tiny bit of color variation in those background leaves. Still, you know, I had this really muted, beautiful earthy green, or kind of cool green, but I added tiny bits of pink into those leaves as well, just a hint, so it wouldn't be so kind of solid and uninteresting. I thought about some yellow as well, but I actually wanted to keep it kind of push it backwards as opposed to bring it forward. And the hair on her, I don't know if you remember, but that box of watercolors, where is it now? I'm losing things. You should see my desk, it's terrifying. That box here, it doesn't really have brown, it has these colors, the one I was using. So what I did is that I mixed together this one, and this green, and I got that brown here. And so, you know, that kind of a darker brown, a cooler brown in the shadows. And then I did the highlights with this apricot color to have kind of a contrast and interest in her hair. And once the pencils go on top, I think it's going to look pretty fun. As this is, you know, a base, I did not try to do it, you know, fully in watercolor. I'm not planning to layer it with watercolor. I'm just pretty much trying out those new watercolors I have, the kind of a GuangNa style watercolors, Chinese watercolors, to see if they're okay for pencils. And so far, you know, the texture is nice and matte, and you know, the pencil should go on top real nice. And I'm working here with the other set that I got, this kind of autumn set, was it? Yeah, late autumn garden it's called. Very cozy set. And I am working with these two colors. They're this one and this one here, with wonderful names, Tian Shui Bi and Cold Smoke Green. Okay. Yeah, there's on that, I should actually try to translate, you know, there is more info at the back of the kind of manufacturer sheet. I will try tonight to translate with my phone after I'm finished filming. But I'm just doing a background here because it needed a bit of a extra oomph. So I'm going to put it down pretty solid, not solid, but kind of a bit of variations. Okay, I had it too wet. This is what I have the sponge for. Just, you know, if your brush has too much paint on it, just tap some off, and then you can, you know, once your brush is a bit drier, you can also pick some paint off from the page when it's down to kind of wet and thick. So yeah, just working on putting a bit of a slightly varied but not very complicated background down there. I probably will work on top of it with kind of a bits and pieces and some dots and textures as well. So I'm not going to try to make it super smooth, which, you know, I could work with probably if I kind of pre-mixed the color and just kind of use the flat color. But I'm basically, you know, letting the color play and vary itself. So I'm doing like that in the corner here, washing my brush, picking up some of that kind of a cool grayish, lighter blue, kind of a sky color. It is very much autumn sky color, isn't it? That one here. Where's mine? You know, this one here. It's not too bright, but still beautiful. Beautiful blue. Really like those colors. I like the kind of interesting interesting, kind of a difficult colors. They're not, you know, hugely mixing sets, but you can still mix them. As I was trying out with the previous set, they mix fine. You just kind of need to test it, you know, before you put it cheerfully on the paper. But they definitely do mix. So I managed to get, you know, all sorts of different variations and colors by just mixing them together. So you can do that with pretty much any paint. And yeah, this is it for today, I think. I don't think I have anything wise and profound to say here. I'm really hoping that I will eventually drag myself out of my slump. Yeah, I'll get there. You know, I just take my time and do whatever I feel like doing, so I kind of get back into the joy of coloring, as opposed to, you know, so I wouldn't feel that it's a chore, because that shouldn't be the case. I even, you know, I really enjoy doing it even now, but I just enjoy it when I feel no pressure at all to finish anything, or to, you know, even, you know, work on detailing. I essentially at the moment just need to put color down, and I'm doing that then. And, you know, once I get over that stage, things will improve. That's how it usually goes with me anyway. It is not my first first rodeo with the coloring slump, so I'll get back. I'll recover. Anyways, thank you very much for watching and putting up with my ramblings. Hopefully you have loads of lovely creative time. Fingers crossed the coloring slump gremlins keep far, far away from you. And have a beautiful morning or evening or afternoon, whatever the time is in your corner of the world. Thank you for watching. If you like my videos, please like and subscribe so YouTube keeps offering them to you. And bye-bye.